Yo, what is up everybody? This is Aman and in this video, we're gonna be building a RESTful API using Node.js. This is a complete beginner friendly build. So if you are a complete beginner, looking to get started with backend development or looking for Crud operations or something like that, you're at the right place. We're gonna be building a Node.js RESTful API using MongoDB, Express.js and Node.js. This is gonna be a complete beginner friendly build. So without wasting your time, let's get into it. So guys, to get started you have to install Node.js on your computer, and this is VS Code. It's a code editor that I'm using. I'll leave the link to both of these in the description below. And so to get started, I'm going to create a new folder here. I'm going to call it my REST API, and I'm just going to go into this my REST API folder in the terminal, and then I'm going to say npm init. Now what npm init command does is that it creates a new project for you, a node project, so that you can work on, and all you need to do is just keep on clicking enter. In the place of author you can write your name, so I'm going to write my name here, and then just skip it all. Now guys, as you can see here, we've got a package.json. Now what package.json does, it has all the data, all the information about our app in this file, like what are the dependencies that we have installed. If this doesn't make sense to you right now, just keep stay with me, it will. So guys, now what we're going to go ahead and do is that we're going to create a new file and name it as server.js. Now guys, server.js, all the code that we're going to write for this REST API is going to stay in this server.js here. So to create a basic application using Express.js, first you need to install Express.js. So we're going to do that, npm install express, something like that. Now since we have Express installed, and as you can see, we have got a new file here which is called as package.log.json. In the package.json you can see that under these dependencies we have Express and the version of it. So we have 4.17.1 version of Express.js with us. So to create a basic server using Express.js, what you need to do is you have to first import it. Express is equals to require and Express. As you can see, the autocomplete is showing. Now this means that we have successfully installed. I'm going to say const app equals to Express, and what we are doing here is that we are just going to create a instance of Express, so we name it as app. So next what we're going to go ahead and do is that simply app.get. Now this specifies that this is going to be a get request. So now what this method takes is that two things. First, the path, so that's going to be slash, and then it's going to take, my bad, now it's going to take two arguments called as request and response. Now this is a callback function, right? So this is a callback function, as you can see here. Let me make this down so that it becomes clear. Okay, so this is a callback function. The first argument was a path, so the path is slash. So if someone comes to the slash path of a REST API, what we do is written in this callback function, so that response dot status. So the status defines that what kind of status it is. So the status between 200 to pretty much I believe 300, you can just put on 200 for a successful status. Now you must have seen 404 pages if the page does not exist. So this is just a status code which is used conventionally in the HTTP world to verify that you have sent a request and this request was successful. So we have set a status of 200, this means successful, dot send, and we're gonna send an HTTP response. Now the send method sends an HTTP response to the request. So whenever you request to it, it's gonna send a HTTP response, and what that HTTP response will say, it will say, hello, I'm your slash route or slash page, something like that. And then here we're gonna say app.listen. Now what listen does is that it starts our server, something like that. It listens at certain port. So we're gonna say listen at, for say 3000 port, and we're gonna say a callback function. So as soon as it starts listening on this port, so listening is nothing but it means that the server has started and it is listening to the requests. So now you are ready to post request to this REST API. So we're gonna say console.log app started. Now to run this server, what we need to do is we're gonna say nodemon. Nodemon is another npm package that you need to install. So what nodemon does is that every time you make some changes in your code, you need not to restart the server again. And let me show you how does that work. If I say code and if I put in the file name, which is server.js, now if I press tab, it auto completes that for me. And so if I say node server.js app started, as you can see our app is started. Now to check this out, what we're gonna go ahead and do is that here we're gonna say localhost colon, and what was the port? It was 3000. So if you say 3000, hit enter, as you can see it says hello and your slash page. So congratulations guys, you have made your first backend code. It's not actually backend but some kind of backend kind of code. So you have done that. So as you can see, it console logged app started as soon as the app started listening for the requests, and we have requested for the slash, which is just this one. If we want to request to something like slash users, so we have to define it in our file here. So if you say, since we haven't defined yet, if we click on it, it says cannot get slash users. Since we haven't defined that, so it's not gonna show anything. Now similarly, we're gonna define some other routes like app.get. Now what get specifies is that this route is gonna only take get requests. Now I'm gonna tell you what get, post and these requests are in a second, so just keep going with me. If you say slash users, and the second parameter is a callback function which takes similar things like request and response. So every single time you define a route, you're gonna do the same things. So yeah, so you're gonna say request comma response, and this is a callback function, and you're gonna say rest dot status of 200 again, because this is gonna be a successful response. And you're gonna say send, and you're gonna say hi, this is slash users page or route or something like that. So if you save the changes, as you can see, we need to start the server once again. Now if I just go ahead and say slash users, we have defined it in our file and we have saved the changes as well, but check what happens. It still says it cannot get slash users. That's because we have to restart our server again and again, and you need not, if you do it again and again, it's not a good task. Let me show you how do we do it. Node again server.js. Now the app has started again. If we go slash users now, as you can see, this is slash users route, it is sent to us. But it's not a good practice to again and again start the server, because when you're working on real world applications, you have a lot of changes, you're going to change a lot of things, so you need not to do it again and again. So the solution for this is that use nodemon. Now what nodemon does is that as soon as you save your changes in your file, it automatically starts the server again. So we're gonna do it. We're gonna say nodemon. Now I have already nodemon installed. It may give an error to you, so you need to install it using npm I nodemon and something like that, but I'm not gonna do it because I have already installed it. So nodemon server.js Now it's gonna start. Okay, and look at what happens as soon as I save something. I'm clicking on Control S, and as you can see, it has restarted the server again, and again it prints app started. So you need not to again and again start the server. Simply we're gonna have another route called as app.get slash something like slash entries or something like that, and we're gonna have the similar things for every single route. Now guys, what I want you to do is, this tutorial is gonna help you to make a RESTful API. You're gonna understand how to do it, but the real learning comes when you engage in it. Keep on messing up things. I'm just gonna provide this link to the GitHub repository in the description below. So guys, what I want you to do is that just go and mess up things, just run into errors. That's how you're gonna learn, because watching just tutorials is not gonna help you out that much. Yeah, it's gonna give you information, but the real learning comes when you mess up things. And let's get into it. So res.status of again 200, and we're gonna say dot send this time, and I'm gonna say this is slash entries route. So similar thing again and again. As you can see, the app has restarted automatically due to nodemon. Back in the browser, if I go to slash entries, as you can see, this is slash entries route. So guys, this is how we define routes in Express.js. Right now, Express.js makes our life easier. If you just go ahead and start creating these routes using from scratch, it's gonna take you a lot of time. So that's why we use Express.js. So let's start building our RESTful API now. Now the RESTful API, you need to have a database. So RESTful API stands for representational state transfer. That's what REST stands for. Now what REST is about is that it's kind of a server client architecture wherein you are the client. So if you go to facebook.com and you go to your your profile, and it shows you all of your posts. So how do you get them? As soon as you go to that page, the page you can't see it, but the code behind it runs, and it sends a request to the backend. What backend? Facebook's backend, that I want the entries or posts of this user, of those things from the database. Now we're gonna be defining how this all thing is gonna work in Node.js. Now this is what REST API stands for. Now REST API is generally so they have certain requests like get, put, post, or delete, or something like this. There are many requests, but these are the most popular ones, and this is what we call it as CRUD operations. So get request is nothing but to get the resource. You mean if you go to as I said, you get all of your posts as soon as you go to your profile page. Now when it comes to post, you wanna add some resource. So as soon as on the Facebook, if you click on save post or post button, it sends a request to the backend saying that this is the data, save it in the database. Now a user has made new post, so save it in the database, so that if you even come after 10 years, if that app exists, you can see your post. So this is how this things works. I know if it doesn't make sense, stay with me, it's gonna make sense later on. So guys, to get started, I'm gonna use MongoDB for this. Now MongoDB is very fast, very popular these days, and it works very well with Node and Express things. So to get started, you need to go to this page, which is mongodb.com. Now I'm using MongoDB Atlas. There are certain more versions of it, but Atlas is the most simple, and it's kind of very easy to go. You need not to install a lot of stuff. You can just do it on the web, as you can see here. So if you log in, I want you to log in onto MongoDB and go to MongoDB Atlas. So let me show you how to do this. So you type in MongoDB Atlas, and as you can see here, we have MongoDB Atlas. So if you go here and if you click on sign in, now I'm already signed up, so I just need to sign in. I'm gonna log in with Google. and that's how you do it. So if you log in, you're gonna see something like this. So to get started, all you need to do is click on this new project button, and so you click it and give your project a name. I'm gonna call it REST API tutorial, right? And then click on next, and you need not to invite any members. It's something advanced, so we're gonna check it out later on. So for now, just create your project. It's gonna create your project, and it's gonna take a bit of time, and I'm gonna catch you up once it's ready. Well, today things are going way faster. So now you need to do is build just a cluster. So for now, since you're a beginner, just do it, because these things will make sense in future, because the easy way to get started is just keep doing. So if you build a cluster, and you're gonna say this free one, and just leave everything by default up here, nothing, you need not to tweak anything, just click on create cluster. Okay, now this cluster is gonna take some time to get created, so I'm gonna catch you up once it's ready. Right, we're gonna install another package called as Mongoose. Now what Mongoose does is that, so you have MongoDB and your this server.js file or your backend, so you want to connect this backend to your MongoDB. Now what Mongoose does is that it helps you connect that, and you can do a lot of things very easier using Mongoose. So Mongoose is just a npm package. It's kind of it's gonna help you out to make things easier, make things fast. It's gonna help you to connect with MongoDB and do some CRUD operations very easily, rather than being if you do it all from scratch, it's gonna take a bit of time. So that's why we use packages like Mongoose. Now there are a lot of packages like Mongoose, but then Mongoose is very popular. So npm install Mongoose. So guys, our cluster is ready, and to connect it, you need to just click on this connect button, and here it will ask you to whitelist an IP address. So you're gonna just click on your IP address, and you're gonna just connect that. So after that, you have to add a username and password to your database, so that anyone can't access it. So I'm gonna just put that and get. Now guys, if you're done with this, you have to add a username and just a simple kind of password, whatever you like. And next you're gonna get this button, choose a connection method. So if you click on this, you have three options in front of you. So what you need to click on is connect your application, and so you're gonna get this URL, connection URL, and this is gonna be equal to inside this quotation marks, just paste this up. So this is kind of a password what I have for my database, and here you need to put on your password. Aman 2006 is my username, and this is gonna be my password. And then I think you need not to change anything except this DB name. What you're gonna put here is you're gonna put the DB name as REST API tutorial. Yeah, so REST API tutorial, and you're gonna just save that up. Now I'm just gonna copy a snippet of code and gonna show you what that does. So guys, we have this snippet of code up here. As you can see, this connecting the DB. So how do you connect this? So the first argument, you have a method called as mongoose.connect. Now one very dumb thing that we have done here is that we haven't imported Mongoose yet, so we're gonna do that. So const Mongoose is gonna be equal to require Mongoose, something like that. Okay, so these are certain just conventional things that you have to write just to make things easier and make things clean. And this is gonna connect your app to your database. Now we're gonna say another thing, mongoose dot connection dot once, and once it's on, I believe it's pretty good, open, it's open, okay, open. So you're gonna have a callback function which says, now what this piece of code says is that as soon as the mongoose connects our app to the database, I mean the MongoDB, you have to fire a callback function, and what this callback function will do is console log something called as db connected. So if we get printed db connected, it means that we are successful in connecting the database with the app. So we're gonna say, we're gonna run the server once again, and hopefully this will connect everything. Yeah, as you can see here, we have db connected. Now this means that we have connected our app with MongoDB. Build a simple kind of REST API in which we're gonna say, we're gonna create posts, we're gonna delete posts, we can update the posts, or we can get the posts. So we're gonna define the routes for it. So it's as simple as that, as we have learned earlier, app.get. Now what get request says is that you want to get some kind of resource. So at this point what we want to do is that we want to get, and we're gonna say the route as slash posts. So if someone goes to posts route and fires a get request, so what we're gonna say is that as this callback function, what we're gonna say at this point is that just get me all of the posts from the MongoDB. We have done a mistake over here, and we have to say status, something like this. To do that, first you need to be creating, you should be able to create posts, only then you can get the post, right? So to do that, we have something called as schemas in MongoDB. Now how MongoDB works is that you have a table. Now database is kind of a table. Now in MongoDB, which is a NoSQL database, there is something called as collection. So collection, if you are coming from a SQL background or SQL kind of databases, so think of it like a table. So a table is nothing but a table of something. So if we have list of users, we're gonna make a table of users. If we have a list of posts, we're gonna create a table of posts. Similarly in MongoDB, we're gonna create a collection of posts or a collection of users. So that's how we're gonna go ahead and do that. Now these collections are gonna contain a lot of users. So a user collection, for here we're gonna say posts collection. So we're gonna have a post collection, and in this post collection we're gonna have documents. Now each document is a different posts. So the number of document is equals to the number of posts we have in our database. So to define these documents, now these documents are gonna contain some kind of data. So when you go to Facebook, what kind of data do you have? If you click on a post button, so if let's say you have made a post to a Facebook, so the data in the post is gonna be what is the username of the who made this post, and what is the content of the post, like what is written in the post, and whether there are any kind of images in the post, what is the time that the post was made. So these are all the data, we call them fields. So a collection, it's a very big thing. So collection has a lot of posts, and each single post has number of fields. You can have any number of fields in them. Like for us, we're gonna have like title of the post, content of the post, and the date, the time when the post was made. So these are gonna be the fields. So to define that, we have to use Mongo schema. So schema is nothing but how you define these things. So how the fields are gonna be, where what kind of fields they are gonna be, like whether it's gonna be date or content or something like that. So yeah, let's do it. So if we go ahead and create a new file, now I'm gonna create okay, so since we have only one collection, that is posts, we're gonna create a direct file for it, and we're gonna call it db posts, something like that, db posts.js. So guys, at this point what we're gonna go ahead and do is that we're gonna say const, so we're gonna import mongoose and we're gonna say const mongoose is gonna be equal to mongoose, something like that. And here we're gonna say const, we're gonna give a name to our schema, so we're gonna say posts schema. So we're gonna call it post schema and we're gonna say new mongoose dot schema. So as you can see, we have auto completion here, and this is gonna be, so guys, this is gonna be a kind of object. So this mongoose schema is gonna contain an objects, these object is gonna define all of our fields. So the first field that we're gonna have here is the content of the post, so what is written in that post. Now this is a normal JavaScript object, and you're gonna say its type, you're gonna say type as string. So the type of this content is gonna be string, and there should be a minimum and maximum characters. So you can't post just hi, you can't do that. So you must be having a minimum kind of thing and a maximum kind of thing. So the minimum we're gonna add at least 4 characters, and the maximum 10,000 characters or something like that. So next we're gonna be having date. So since we don't have users in it, we are not talking about users, we're not gonna get into those kind of complicated stuff for now. We're gonna just focus on CRUD operations. So we're gonna have date, so date for now, and you have a required as true, that you can't have a post which doesn't have any date. So what's the use of making the post? And by default, if the time is not given, by default you're gonna take date dot now. So this is gonna be default. So by default it's gonna take now this time. Whenever you post, if you don't give the date, it's gonna by default take the present date and time. And we're also gonna have required is equals to true in our content, because we can't have a post which has no characters. Required is going to be equal to true, so you can't just post with just date. You have to give some content in order to make a post. Now to export this in our posts, so we are good to go from here. Now coming to the server.js file, we're going to import this const db posts is going to be equal to, my bad, db posts is going to be equal to require we have db posts fuel dot exports, and you're going to say equal to this thing. So we are good to go right now, and we have imported this. And now what we're going to go ahead and do is that we're going to just get all of these posts. So now if someone wants to create a post, we're going to define a route for that. So we're going to say app dot post request. So to post something, to create some kind of data, you have post request, and to get some kind of thing, you have get request. So if you have post, you're going to say slash post. So if you go to slash post and send kind of a post request, so you're gonna say request comma response. You're gonna say you're gonna get the body from the request. So you're gonna say post body, and I'm gonna tell you how this works in a second. So let post body be equal to request dot body. So when we send a post request, we're gonna send a body with it, and that body is gonna contain the data, the content of the post. So we're gonna get that post body from the request dot body. So whatever we have sent the request, we have the body in it, and we're gonna get the post body from it. And what we're gonna go ahead and do is that we're gonna say db posts dot create. So you're gonna create a new database document a new kind of post in posts. In the posts collection, you're gonna create a new post, I mean a new document kind of thing. Post.create. So this is what Mongoose helps us. So Mongoose gives us these methods, dot create, dot find one, dot find one and update, these kind of things it gives, so that it makes our life easier. Here we're gonna say post body as the first argument. The second argument is gonna be a callback function which is gonna have error comma data. Now this callback function is gonna say, if we have an error, like if we run into an error while creating kind of a post, so what we're gonna go ahead and say at this point, we're gonna say res.status, and now the status is gonna be in 400. So I'm gonna say 400 and 400, the status is gonna be 400, or you can put anything like 404, in 400s you're gonna put any number. So 400, and you're gonna say dot send. What are you gonna send? You're gonna send a kind of a response or kind of JSON kind of thing. Even you can send JSON using dot JSON. So you can also send JSON data rather than just sending text. You can also send JSON data, and what you can say at this point is that error, and you can say error is gonna be error, right? So this is gonna be a kind of JSON data. Else, if there is no error, we're gonna send res dot status. Now this means that there if there is no error, it means that our request was successful. So we're gonna say 200 status, and we're gonna say send the data whatever you have got. A browser only sends get request through this. So to perform kind of these kind of requests like delete or post or something like that, we need to install another thing called as Postman. Just launch it up, buddy. Launch Postman. So we have this button, we're gonna click on it. We're gonna say launch Postman, and this is gonna, so there we go. We're gonna set this method, this is called as request method. We have certain methods, like as you can see here we have a lot of methods. So we're gonna set it to post, since we have to post something, and we're gonna send the URL. So the URL is, copy this up and paste it up here as you can see. So we're gonna request slash posts, and we're gonna send a post request. Now to add body, you need to click on this body tab, and then here you can say raw data, and you can say instead of text you can say a JSON. So in this JSON, what you can do is that you can say the content is gonna be equal to, now since it's a JSON, you need to put it in quotation marks, and so content is gonna be this is a test post, and this post sucks, right? So this is the body wherein we have the content, and we're gonna send this request to our backend, I mean the REST API. Guys, at this point you need to learn something new in Express.js called as middlewares. So what are middlewares kind of thing? So middleware are like a piece of code which runs between the request. So you have sent a request, now the request is being processed, and you'll get a response out of it. So in between of this, whatever the code runs, it's called as middlewares. Now we're gonna use two important middlewares, this CORS and this express.json. Now these two middlewares are very important in express.js. Now what this CORS does is that it prevents from this CORS policy, from blocking the request resources. So this is gonna allow to make request to our database, to our backend. So this is gonna allow that. Now we have to install this CORS in order to use it. So we're gonna say npm I CORS, and all we need to do is just import it here. So we're gonna say const CORS is equals to require, and we're gonna say CORS, something like that. So we're good to go now. We are not gonna get these CORS errors now. It's not posts, because posts route is this one, and the post route is this one. So we have two different routes called as post and posts. Now we're gonna send the request. Hopefully we will get the data, and as you can see, finally we have got the data. As you can see, we have got, you know, the date, have got the content. And if you go to your database and click on these collections, what you're gonna get here is that, as you can see, we have got a new collection called as posts over here, and we have got a new object which is this. Now this object is containing certain fields. Now this underscore id is a by default field that you have to have in every single document. Now why do we have this id? We have this to identify, you know, the post, right? So every single post is gonna have a different id in the database. It has to be unique. Now MongoDB automatically generates it for us, and we have another field which is called as content, which we have created. And by default, since we haven't, you know, sent any kind of, here we only have the content, we haven't sent any kind of date, so by default it generated the date for us. This point is that you can say, you know, db post dot find. This function, you know, dot find is gonna take, you know, a kind of a callback function which, you know, has two things, you know, called as data and, you know, error. And we're gonna do the same thing. If there is an error, and the status is gonna be, so don't forget to, you know, set the status. This is very important. So status is gonna be 404, and we're gonna dot send, or we're gonna send a JSON rather than a simple text, and we're gonna say the error is the following error what we have got. And else, if there is no error, it means that we have successfully done that. So what we're gonna go ahead and say is that rest dot status of a successful code which is 200. You're gonna send, you can just directly send the data from this. So save the changes. Now if you go back here and go to /posts with a get request, not a post request, a get request, and if you send this, we should probably get the list of our post. And as you can see, since we have only one post, we have got this post, and this was the same post which we have made, you know, few minutes earlier. Now if I can make another post. Now I can show you how do we do this. So if I go to body and change, you know, the text and say like this is the best, you know, post, we're gonna be sending this request and our post is made. And now if I go ahead and get all of the posts, we should be getting a list of two posts, this one and the earlier one. Now if I go ahead and, you know, as you can see here, I've, you know, set the method as get, and the URL has been changed to, you know, /posts. And if I send the request now, as you can see, I have got two posts up here. As you can see, these two posts, right? Created post, so C is done, and we are able to read the posts. I mean, we are able to read the post. I mean, we can get the posts. So yeah, this is what we are able to do, and we have two things left over, which is, you know, delete and update. So guys, you know, to delete our posts, we're gonna create another route. So we're gonna say app dot, you know, delete, and this specifies that this, you know, route is gonna be for delete, and we're gonna say /posts. So if someone goes to /posts and the request method is delete, what we're gonna go ahead and say is that the same, you know, the callback function posts dot delete many. As you can see here, we have this method to delete all of the posts, and this is gonna take a callback function again which says error comma data. And so again the same thing, if we have an error, status of, you know, 404, and we're gonna dot send, or we're gonna dot JSON, we're gonna send a JSON object saying your error is, you know, the following error. Now if we don't have an error, what we're gonna say is that rest dot status of, you know, 200, and you're gonna dot send the data. Or instead of sending a data, what we can say is that we can, you know, instead of saying the data, because in the data we will not be left over with any posts, so there is no sense of sending data. So we can say congrats, you have no posts left. Delete, I'm gonna set it to delete and slash posts. Oh man. Okay, so delete and slash posts, and I'm gonna send the request, and it says congrats, you have no posts left. Now if you go ahead and get the posts, you're not gonna get anything because all of the posts have been deleted. So if you go ahead, you can see there is an empty array saying that there are no posts in the database. So this is how you delete something in kind of a REST API. So guys, now to update a post, what you're gonna do is that you're gonna say app.patch request to slash posts. Now one thing you can see is that the routes are same every time. The routes is same like slash posts, but the method is different here. As you can see here we have a patch request. It's gonna accept patch requests. So if we get a patch requests, we're gonna get it here. If we have a delete request, we're gonna get it here. And similarly, if we have a get request, we're gonna get it here. So in this post, the similar thing that we're gonna go ahead and do, which we have been doing from last few minutes, we have request comma response, and we, since we cannot update the whole table, right? We need to say it like which post you need to update. You can only update one post per time. That's the way we do it. So you're gonna say let ID. So as I said you earlier that to track a post you need to have an ID to access it. So we're gonna say request dot query dot post ID. So what we need to send is that while we are sending the request, we need to send a query called as post ID, which is up here, and that should be equal to the ID of the post that we want to update. Posts dot update, and we're gonna say the underscore ID. So we want to say, as you can see, what is it underscore ID? You might get a doubt, something like that. So the reason being it's underscore ID because in the database it is saved as underscore ID, and let me show you how is it saved. So as you can see here in the database it has underscore ID. It's a kind of field. So to access it we are saying underscore ID, and this value should be equal to the ID that we have in the query up here, right? So we're gonna send ID as a query to the as a request, and then we're gonna get the ID from there, and this says that find the post which has this ID. So this is saying that find the post which has this ID, and next we're gonna say what to update. So once you have found the the post, what you're gonna update in that. So to do that we have something called as $set. Now this is just syntax and you have to accept it, however. So we're gonna say we also want what we need to update. So we need to give it as a body what we need to update. So we're gonna get it. So let body to be updated. So something like that. Updated, we're gonna get it from request dot body. So while sending the request we are also gonna send a body which says what to update. So $set, and here we need to put in an object of what to update. So we're gonna say body to be updated. Now this is already an object, so this is gonna update, and as soon as it updates it's gonna fire a callback function saying error comma data. So even here we're gonna go do the same thing, like if there is an error, we're gonna say res.status of the same 404 error, and you're gonna dot json, and we're gonna say bro there's an error, and this is the error which we have got, right? This is the error, and we're gonna send it as error up here. Now else rest dot status of, you know, like 200 and 201 202 or something like that. You know, we're gonna say dot send, and we're gonna send the data, right? And so this is how we're gonna, you know, update it. A patch request to slash posts, and here we're gonna add, you know, kind of parameters. So here the parameter, or you know, this parameter means the query. So if I say post ID, as you can see, the URL is being changed here. You can see there is a question mark which specifies that after this question mark, whatever we have written, it's a query. Now the query name is post ID, and you know, the value of this we're gonna write it here. So we're gonna get, you know, this post which we had earlier, and we're gonna just, you know, copy the ID, and as you can see, this is the query. Now post ID is equals to this ID, so it's gonna get it, you know, the ID from this query, and it's gonna update that post. Now in the body we need to say what we want to update. So earlier it was something like this, but now we want to say this is an updated post, and you know, we can just simply send the request, and hopefully we should be getting, yeah. So now here it's not sending us this thing, but when we go and, you know, get all of the requests from here, so if I say, you know, get all of the posts, we should be seeing a change in the post that we had. Now as you can see, this is an updated post is being updated. We have made, you know, a working RESTful API in which we have CRUD operations, you know, like we can create stuff, we can, you know, read the data, we can update the data, we can delete the data as well. So that's it for today's video. You know, we have built a RESTful API using Node.js, MongoDB, and yeah, Express.js web framework. And so if you have liked this video, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel so that this video can reach out to other developers as well, and they can get help as well. Now also let me know in the comments below, were you able to follow this or not? And if you have any kind of queries regarding, you know, Node.js, and you know, any kind of queries, just write it down below now. Just